A few years back I had this beat-up RV that I used as my little hideaway in the woods behind my place. It wasn't fancy or anything, but it did the job. I'd take it out a short distance, set up camp, and chill for a few days. It was my escape from the world, you know? About 4 years ago, I decided to take the RV out for a regular camping weekend. Drove down a dirt road, found a cozy spot among the trees, and set up shop. Lit a small fire, got some chairs out, and just enjoyed the peace. Sometimes I'd have friends with me, but this time it was just me and myself. As night fell, I added more wood to the fire. Just after the sun went down completely, I heard something moving around near my camp. It wasn't your usual forest sounds, though. It sounded like footsteps, human-like, coming from the trees. I looked over, squinting into the darkness, but couldn't see a thing. This went on for about 20 minutes. Strange sounds like someone wandering around. I decided to play it safe, put out the fire, and locked myself in the RV for the night. Spent the next hour peeking out of the windows, but there was nothing to be seen. It was bizarre because in all my trips out here I'd never had someone stumble upon my camp before. And in the pitch-black dark, even weirder. Before hitting the sack, I double-checked the locks and finally managed to get some shut-eye. Woke up in the morning, brewed some coffee, had breakfast, and hung out in the RV for a bit. I thought about going for a hike, but with the whole mystery camper thing, I settled for a short walk. I headed to where I'd heard the footsteps last night, looking for any clues. Didn't find much, though. No footprints, no nothing. It was a little unnerving, I gotta admit. So when I got back to the RV, I grabbed my handgun and strapped it on just in case. Night came again, and I tried to relax by the fire. I sat outside for a good hour, sipped a beer, and listened to the sounds of the woods. Luckily, nothing happened this time, and I was relieved. I put out the fire, got ready to hit the hay, and that's when I saw it. A figure out of the corner of my eye. They were standing between the trees, not too far away, just watching me in the firelight. My heart raced, and I looked straight at them. It was creepy as all get out. They stood there for a moment, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the dark. I was spooked, to say the least. The fact that I didn't hear any more footsteps just made me even more paranoid. I packed everything up, locked myself in the RV, and thought about calling it quits and heading home in the morning. This was turning into a real unfun experience. Whoever this mystery person was, they'd been around my RV twice now, and they hadn't said a word. No introductions, no nothing. I kept watch for a couple of hours, peeking out the windows and listening hard. Then, during the third hour, when I was half asleep in my chair, I heard it. Footsteps approaching the RV. They were quick, like someone was in a hurry. Right up to the door they went. I held my breath, clutching my pistol, hoping they wouldn't do anything crazy. There was a tense moment of silence, and then they started walking around the RV, fast. After a quick lap, they bolted. I stayed awake until the sun came up, and as soon as it was light enough, I got the RV ready and hightailed it out of there. Whoever that person was, they had some messed up plans to be lurking around my RV like that in the middle of the night. I wasn't taking any chances. It was a creepy and unsettling experience, and I wasn't about to stick around and find out what they had in mind. Back in the early 2000s, during a camping trip with my then-boyfriend, who I'll call Alex, we embarked on a journey to explore the wilderness. Our plan was to save money by sleeping in my trusty Jeep or setting up a tent at various spots along the way. Despite our lack of camping expertise, we pushed through the challenges of setting up the tent and eventually got the hang of it. During our adventure, there was one campsite that piqued Alex's interest. It boasted a serene lake perfect for boating and fishing. As we arrived at the campground, we noticed some disheartening changes from the pictures and reviews. The campsite's charm had faded, replaced by an aging and neglected ambiance. The absence of fellow campers added to the eerie atmosphere, making me feel uneasy. After navigating a finicky automated ticket machine, we entered the site and drove cautiously to find our spot. Along the way, we encountered an unsettling encounter with a woman whose piercing gaze and demeanor sent shivers down my spine. Alex dismissed my unease, attributing it to mere curiosity. Despite the odd start, we persisted, setting up camp and even enjoying a campfire-cooked meal. As we savored the beauty of the lake, a slow drive-by from strangers triggered discomfort, as one of the men gazed at us with an unsettling grin. Though Alex tried to brush it off, my sense of being observed lingered. Nightfall brought an unexpected fright when a piercing metallic scrape echoed through the campground, jolting us awake. Alex speculated it was a deer or mischievous campers. However, my intuition sensed something more ominous. Moments later, whispers outside the tent heightened my concern. Armed with a flashlight and a knife, I mustered the courage to investigate, revealing eerie remnants of unwelcome visitors, beer bottles, and unsettlingly headless animal remains. With a sinking feeling, we quickly decided to leave, packing up and departing under the lingering sensation of being watched. As we drove away, the figure of a person near the campground maps left a haunting impression. Although the camping experience was fraught with fear, it ultimately strengthened our bond. In the summer of 2013, a bunch of us, 5 close friends, were like, "Hey, we need a break." Life was all about dealing with relationships that didn't work out, jobs that stressed us out, and the never-ending pressure of school. So, we thought, why not escape to the wild for a girls' camping trip? Our mission: reconnect, recharge, and get lost in nature's awesomeness. Picking a camp spot was like finding a treasure chest. It promised seclusion, the kind that's perfect for a bunch of pals hungry for adventure. We pitched our tents, ready for days filled with giggles, heart-to-heart chats, and the kind of fun that only the great outdoors could offer. Nights were our time to shine, huddled around the campfire, swapping stories like pros. But oh boy, we were in for a surprise. One night, the silence was broken by these weird sounds that made us sit up straight in our sleeping bags. I mean, what? Whispers and stuff outside our tent? Nope. Not what we signed up for. Like brave warriors. Well, sort of. We stepped out to find this total stranger looking like he'd been through a tornado. Wild hair, eyes darting around like crazy. He was all over the place. We didn't let fear take over. We started chatting him up, trying to figure out what in the world brought him to our campsite. His story was like a jigsaw puzzle missing half the pieces. Lost backpacker, wandering around like a lost kitten in the big bad forest. It was kind of creepy, but we've got big hearts, so we shared our food and water. Here's the twist. The more he rambled, the more we felt something was off. Like, could this dude be trouble? Our guts were like, yep, danger ahead. So with our courage pumped up, we politely told him it was time for him to hit the road. He left, but the whole night felt spooky, like something was still lurking around. Sunrise was like a sigh of relief. We decided it was time to shake off the creepy vibes and move on. That freaky encounter actually brought us closer, can you believe it? Our bond went deeper because we faced fear together. Lesson learned. Even the most peaceful spots can throw you a curveball. It was like a chapter in our friendship book we'd never forget. A wild reminder that life's full of surprises, even when you're surrounded by nature's calm. Back in 2018, me and my partner, who I'll call Max, set out on this awesome camping and road trip. We wanted to have a super unforgettable time and make a bunch of new memories together. So we're cruising along on our trip, right? And then boom, we run into this huge thunderstorm. It was like a big test of our determination. But you know what? We didn't let it stop us. Once the rain calmed down, we finally made it to the campsite. But guess what? Things had changed since Max's childhood. The place didn't have that same awesome vibe it used to. But even though it wasn't exactly what we expected, we found a spot to set up our camp near these 2 older couples. They didn't seem all that thrilled about having us around, but we didn't let it get to us. We were feeling pretty brave, so we decided to explore deeper into the woods to find our own little private area. We did some really cool hikes, talked about the past, and had some really nice romantic moments too. And then one night, under the stars, I popped the question and asked Max to marry me. It was this crazy special moment that felt like pure magic. But then, out of nowhere, things got really weird. We woke up to these strange sounds, like clicks and grinding noises. It was pretty darn creepy, and Max was getting pretty jittery. They told me about hearing footsteps while they were in the woods, which totally freaked them out and made them hurry back to our campsite. So there we were, trying to be all brave and tough in the middle of this eerie silence. We shared our thoughts about all the weird stuff that was going on and how it was making us feel. And as the night dragged on, we kept our guard up, even though we had no clue what was happening. When the sun finally came up, we felt a bit better. But we just couldn't shake off the memory of the spooky stuff from the night before. We talked and talked about those mysterious sounds and footsteps. And even though it was totally bizarre, it kind of brought us closer together. It was like a reminder that nature has its own way of keeping secrets. As we packed up our stuff to leave, we knew this trip was going to stick with us for a long time. It wasn't just about camping and being out in the wild. It was about us, and how we stuck together when things got really strange. Our adventure was like a journey into the unknown, sort of like our journey together through life. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed today's scary stories, consider subscribing and dropping a like on the video. If you have any ideas for what stories you would want to hear next, feel free to drop a comment below. Stay sleepless.